everybody? It's another happy Thursday here on BreakSec. Was playing around, apparently, I don't know why, but every OS I've ever had has their peccadillos. Elgato, my face cam, this one I use right here, in OBS will always flip itself upside down. It's flipped itself upside down all the time, even though I don't have the camera upside down. I'm beginning to wonder if I just flipped it upside down by itself, it would have any problems. But yeah, so I have to go in and double check before I go live to make sure that I'm not, it's not Australia up in here, so I'm like, like a bat hanging like vampire and some shit. So yeah, I'm here. It's Thursday. I've been remiss. I'm sorry. I want to say I took a week off, but it was more like I needed to take a week off because of, I just don't, there's just not a lot going on with security and InfoSec that isn't, the world is ending. So I wanted to take a little week and maybe work on my side project a little bit. There's some other stuff I'm doing there, but yeah, hope everyone's doing well. How are you? How are people? Hey, Walt. Hey, good to see you, man. Hey, how was B-Sides Seattle a couple of weeks ago? Did you see that new Mac Studio has 512 gig of unified memory? Jesus, why would you need 512 gig? I actually saw somebody on Reddit, which, wish me luck, people. Here goes. Look at me. Okay, there I am. Hello. Somebody had mentioned on Reddit that like the new, there was an M3 Ultra and you could get like 128 gigs of RAM on that thing. And I was like, seriously? What do you, do you need that much? So Walt, let me ask you a question. What's the large models for? Is it just so you can get your answers quicker? Because I've progressed because I follow several Reddits. One of them was 600 billion parameter models. Do I need 600 billion parameters? No. Does anybody except people doing, I don't know, deep research into something, or maybe stable diffusion? I could see maybe if you're trying to create, more realistic, sure, you can run the model locally. Yeah, sure. My thought was, what do you need it for? Right? Is it more realistic photos? You're trying to get your deep fakes to look, the deep and fakiest, or, I'm just trying to figure out, why you would need 600 billion parameters. No, I'd rather get poked in the eyeball with a dull spoon. Thank you. Anyway, sorry, it's a work thing. Yeah, I would love to run one locally. As a matter of fact, we've talked with Mick Douglas about Concierge, which is a AI model, InfoSec. There we go. So I just looked this up again because it seems like it had, I don't want to say fallen asleep, but it's been a few months since I've talked with Mick, and I wanted to make sure everything was running nicely on this. And what this is a RAG, if you will, an RAG, which is, for those of us who aren't aware, and I'm still learning that myself, it's a retrieval augmented generation. So it's an AI framework that uses an LLM for external knowledge bases or what have you. And what I'm wanting to kind of do with it in my own way, I hoard data. I just hoard data. And one of the things that I like to do is go to sites like oh, okay. Okay, so that doesn't work well. So I'm a big fan of role-playing games, Dungeons and Dragons, Fate, you name it, and I will probably use it. And one of my other hobbies and one of my other things that I do, for those of you who follow, is I actually have another stream that I call the Peerless Gamer. And so people will create homebrewed content for, in this case, Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, what have you. And So you go here and there is a grip of stuff to do. Let me grab one that I've seen just recently. Let me see. It was called the binder. Let me see. This is like, you know, cross-mogenating my geekdom here, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah, we'll go with this one. So this is a homebrew. There's a place called Home Brewery where you can download some free stuff. Okay. So Home Brewery. Natural crit. All right. So you can go in here and basically what it is, it's a markup file where you can create what looks like if you ever bought a Dungeons and Dragons, you know, book like the DM guide or the monster manual or whatever. It makes it very similar using a style sheet and some markdown, like those things, but like the books themselves, with 2 columns, which I find annoying. I find incredibly annoying, but all the content's in there, and you can go and look at different ones. And so, let me see. Oh, the binder. Here you go. So, you know, there's different things you can do. So anyway, I can save these as PDFs. And the idea is that I can pull them up, you know, and I have so many, you have no idea. Because people keep making them and I keep ingesting them. But eventually I would like to use some or many of the concepts that exist on this to play, you know, with characters. And sometimes, you know, like you'll get different feats in these things and it's like, oh, okay, I don't want to play this whole character. Maybe I want to, you know, build out a martial character or build out a magic user with certain things, you know, or, you know, how can I take this, you know, I've got this thing, okay, so let's say channel vestige or whatever, and I want to turn it into a fate, you know, a fate aspect instead of a D&D thing. There are other tools you can use. There's one I found called Doc Goblin, which is a document search engine, not powered by AI, that allows you to search through your documents more efficiently. It creates an index, if you will, of these items. And I have it. It's actually running, and the limitation of it is it only takes up to 30 meg files. So I have some of these PDFs, because they have pictures in them, make them extremely large. So, you know, stripping, you know, slicing them up into 30 meg or 20 meg, you know, pieces, so that way it will scan them. I've also done a good bit of work looking for, you know, rags on-prem, and there's a few. Because, you know, it's like, oh yeah, you can use, you know, whatever Google's is, but it's like, it makes connections back to Google. And I'm like, no, I want it like Walt here. He said, you run it locally, you run it on-prem. You don't have to go back to the, you know, evil corporate motherships and you know, have them process any of their stuff. Gemini, I think, is what Microsoft uses, or not Microsoft, Google uses. So, you know, there's a ton of sites out there, including, you know, them talking about, you know, building an on-prem RAG for private data centers. You know, Concierge itself is actually able to, you know, special recognition to Hugging Face, Lang, Milvius. Milvius is the one I saw recently about doing an on-prem version of that. Olama. So yeah, they're building this out, and I want to have Mick on eventually, along with the developer, to talk about these things. The problem that I have with these rags is file sizes are, you know, like, you got to split it up if it's too big. Now, the other thing is, you know, if you've got a PDF in this case, like this one here, to get the data out, you have to have OCR, which is optical character recognition, basically like a tesseract or something like that, which will scan the doc, convert all of this to text, and then give you what you want. Or in this case, if I want to ask about 50 different PDFs, and I'm like, you know, tell me all about the martial characters inside of, you know, give me a martial character that wouldn't suck. And ideally, the RAG is supposed to go, okay, cool, based on these 15 PDFs that you have, you can do this with these feats or these characters. And I haven't gotten there yet because setting it up, is another thing, because some of them's Dockerized, some of them it's like you can't run it in Docker, you have to run it locally because the database is going to be ginormous and whatever. And I was actually looking at going back to Concierge because it was the only one I forgot to kind of run correctly. Milvius is one that they definitely had mentioned here, Milvis on-prem, and I think there was a couple of there was a couple of Medium articles that I had read about getting this started. The biggest issue I've seen is, you have to have an OpenAI API key. And I'm like, I don't need OpenAI API keys because I don't want to make any connections back, right? So there's tutorials on installing it with the latest version of Docker using Docker Compose. And yeah, what I'd like to do is to take my ginormous pile of PDFs and turn them into something that I can grab on the fly, or if I want to look up a rule in a game system that isn't D&D, like Ironsworn, which I currently run on my Peerless Gamer site, I can go, hey, tell me what's the rule for this, and then it would be able to go in and go, according to this, blah, 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 blah. Some people are still against using AIs in RPGs, but I'm like, I just want to use it. So you need 3 containers from Milvius standalone server, etcd, and a distributed key value store for metadata storage and access, Minio, S3 compatible persistent storage for logs and index files, and Milvius, the database server. Maybe I just did the right Google search when I did it right, because I'd actually used Copilot to ask if there was any on-prem RAG systems that I could use, and it gave me Milvius, it gave me Olama, and it gave me a couple of other ones, but yeah, large scale. And I think 7 billion, I think to your point, Walt, 7 billion was the biggest one that I think my 64 gigs could handle as running. Because I don't have another GPU, I'm just using a maxed out M4 Max here. So I have 20 cores and 38 GPU cores or something, whatever that is. Yeah, image search, natural language processing, recommender systems, anomaly detection, bioinformatics, audio analysis. Yeah, so one of the other things I was learning, boot.dev, one of the deals that I'm trying to learn everything, not everything at the same time, but one of the things for back-end developer path is learning Docker, and it was one of the ones that deeper down here on this list, and see, number 20 out of 23. So I was like, well, I can learn Docker without having to know all this other stuff. And you get to a certain point in Docker where it's like, oh, set up your project server that you've had since number 15 or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, I have to have all this stuff set up. So I couldn't finish the Docker bit, but I learned quite a bit about the command line, the storage, networking. I just got to the Docker files portion when it was like, oh yeah, you can't do that. R1 is 671 billion. Holy crap. I always thought that because it was only 600 billion meant you were just going to get your answers faster, right? It was just more parallelizing or something. Maybe I'm wrong there. I don't know. But I had a meeting this morning where somebody was trying to set up and architect a solution, and I was like, you're not running containers right. I just, they were like, oh, we want to open up ports on our instances and everything. And I was like, why don't you just use the intra-process communications between containers and set up a custom connection? Because I just learned about the whole networks bit where you can, go in and create a custom bridge network that only works between containers and stuff. And I was like, you don't have to expose ports. You can just, use this. Anyway, I was just futzing around with some of that, but this may be something I want to look at. But the problem is I screwed up. I only have 1 terabyte of drive space on this Mac, so I've got I think this one has 4 terabytes in it, so I'm going to have to use this for some of my storage. I have a 4 tera. No, wait. Sorry, this one has 4 terabytes on it, so I'll have to probably use this for some of the storage of my model if I go crazy nuts on it. I think between these two here and this one, I have about 8 gigs of storage on SSDs that will help me out there. NVMe SSDs, not other ones, but 671 billion. That is a lot. That is a lot. Yeah, so I've got Docker installed. Go to dashboard. There we go. So yeah, I've been playing around with it a little bit. Let me put an application up on here. How's everybody going? Walt, did you B-Side Seattle was a couple weeks ago, wasn't it? How was that? Was it good? Did you have fun? Did you go? I should back up and ask the question, did you go? And if so, did you enjoy it? Screen capture, no. Let's see here. I guess that's the right one. Docker. Yeah, that's way better. Okay. Window capture. Docker. Is, yes, there we go. Okay. So. Oops. Copy, and then duplicate. There we go. Okay, so yeah, I've got my Docker stuff up here. Nothing fancy. One of the systems they have in here is for something called Caddy, which is like a CMS system. Caddy. Yeah, it's a server with, makes sites more, it allows you to do things like static site requests and stuff like that. Yeah, I know you can't see it because it's, oh, turn off studio mode. That'll make it easier for me to move shit around. So yeah, it's got the, so it's Dockerized, so you can pull it in and then do things, like look up certain items there. So, but yeah, I'm just learning that stuff. So, trying to find a decent enough system that doesn't make any calls back to the mothership is most ideal here. This is a big Docker Compose file to be able to pull this stuff down. So. Let me see here. We got. All right. There we go. Milvius Compose CD. So we'll grab all that. Yeah, the other thing that I was interested in on boot.dev was like, oh yeah, you can Dockerize anything you want. I was like, man, that sounds too good to be true. So you can pull all that down. Look at the configuration. I'm going to I don't want to install Xcode. Thank you very much. I've already done that. Thank you. Close that. Let's see if I can just open the text file in here. Okay. So yeah, let's see, 2379 provides Minio with a volume and uses a default access for keys. However, you could create a Minio image with unique keys for production use. Docker Compose up -D. Oh, by the way, if you want to check out Mick Douglas's, oh, B-Side Seattle's next month. Oh, I don't know why I thought it was this month. Huh. What was it? Oh, something was going on. That's good, because B-Side San Diego is like at the end of the month in a couple weeks. So, but But yeah, so it looks like they haven't done much on it, but I saw somebody had mentioned in one of the one of the requests here that, let me see, where is it? Oh, there we go. So I want to say this is one of the developers, as of last week, said that they were very close to releasing 060, which will have RBAC features, which may be of use to you. The idea is this person wanted to run, and he doxed himself. I'm not sure why they would want to do something like that. But they wanted it to be used in the enterprise, right? So if you set it up locally here, you want to be able to open it up to other folks to be able to use as well, and to, you know, pull data from or to ask queries of, without it going up to insert somebody who's going to sell your information here, of the fangs, if you will. So, but yeah, it sounds like they're really close to 060. I may actually reach out to Mick to see if there's a timeline for this, and see if I can get him scheduled for an interview to talk about 060 when it comes out, and see where we're at. But yeah, you know, I want to play with Milvius and see if there's a way to get this up and running without being locally. And, you know, if I have to carve my PDFs apart to make them smaller, or, you know, the other thing I thought of was, you know, a lot of the home brewery stuff that I get from, you know, this site, I can open it, clone to new, and automatically use the markdown version to not have to worry about, you know, if I don't care about the pictures, which take up a lot of space. I think that's the biggest problem. But if I just wanted to, you know, Control A and copy the entire contents of the markdown file, I could just use text instead of having to go through the OCR part, which could be error prone or what have you, and make it easier. Or I could, you know, keep the markdown version and keep the PDF for, maybe I want to make a nice cute little token of this guy right here, if I wanted to use him on, you know, if I wanted to make a token to use on the battle mat that I have for these things, I can do that. So anyway, that's, you know, that's if anybody has any thoughts or ideas on that, that would be great. But yeah, it looks like I might be able to try this one this weekend and see what I can do about getting this up and running. I mean, if I have to slice up PDFs, then I'll do it, but I would rather not have to do that, because it would increase the file number, it would increase, you know, potential data usage. The idea also would be that maybe I could create characters based on some of the images that are in there, but that would run afoul of copyright laws, or, you know, artistic license, or, you know, I don't have permission to use other people's stuff to train pictures, so I don't really want to do that. That would be unethical of me, especially if I was going to use those pictures on my stream. So, which is the other reason I would probably, you know, grab a shot of this, and then, you know, make sure that I give artistic license and credit where necessary. So that's what I've been doing, right? So, you know, learning Docker file references, how to create a nice, simple Docker instance that can be futzed around with right here. As you can see, I got some layers, I got some logs, trying to follow along and understand what this does. So this exposes ports, which, you know, you might need if you're going to do that. Creating static volumes, which is another thing. The problem is my file system looks kind of gnarly right now, because I've just been kind of throwing stuff in the home directory. So I've got to get better at, like, doing project files, and, you know, using GitHub for proper storage of infrastructure as code, which is, I finally grok that now. I understand, you know, the Docker file is how you would set up your environment, but it's also your potential software bill of materials, and it's also your method by which you can control your environment. So, yeah. So yeah, volumes, setting up volumes, which I've set those up and then I deleted all of them. But then you have builds if you want to build your own Docker files based on desktop Linuxes and things. So I have to go up to Los Angeles this weekend. Have a friend who passed away suddenly from an aneurysm, and so his wife has been sitting Shiva, and we're going to go have a memorial service for him because he's already been put in the ground. But he's a friend of ours that we took several vacations with and hung out with, and he was a good person, and had a second career as an actor when he moved from Dallas to LA. And so really looking forward, well, I don't want to look forward to seeing his wife because I wish it was under better circumstances, but yeah, we're going to be, going up to Culver City on Sunday and paying tribute to Mr. David. So yeah. So those of you who love hardware, this came in on Saturday. So there was an issue, as reported by. Actually, you know what? I have the original article. I think. Let me see. Where is it? It's on. I posted it up to our news of the day. Here it is. Undocumented backdoor. According to Bleeping Computer, on March 8th, that's how long ago this was, they updated their article. So they said the ubiquitous microchip made by Chinese manufacturer espressif, used by had a billion units of use in 2023, contains undocumented commands that can be used to leverage attacks. And so what they say here, after receiving concerns about the use of the term backdoor to refer to these undocumented commands, we've updated our title and story. Oh, okay. So the original story can be found here. So, poor documentation by a developer or developing team became a backdoor on Bleeping Computer. Oh, they put an archive.org. Okay, cool. So could be leveraged for attacks. This undocumented commands allow spoofing of trusted devices, unauthorized data access, pivoting to other devices on the network, and potentially establishing long-term persistence. And found by two researchers from TarLogic Security. And I actually saw TarLogic is still, I think, doubled down on their, oh, there it is. They still have it on their website. Detects a hidden feature in the mass market that could infect millions of IoT devices. So apparently they spoke at a conference, RootedCon, and they presented research revealing undocumented commands. So they're not backdoors. They're just hidden Mickeys, hidden functionality. I don't know. I don't know if that's worse. I don't know if actually having a backdoor in code or having a feature that is undocumented that could be used as a backdoor. I don't know which one is worse, to be honest. So espressif is, like I said, their microcontroller. They enable Wi-Fi and Bluetooth on IoT devices. espressif chips IoT. So you can actually buy the chips. So here's a development board that you can use on Amazon if you wanted to futz around with it. Try some of those undocumented features. Apparently some Adafruit has some espressif camera boards. If it has Wi-Fi or it has a Bluetooth chipset on it, it could be affected by that. But they make a ton of stuff. So they have a development board here. They have various development boards for IoT devices. Here's an Ethernet development board. A sensor board, looks like it might be a camera. Yeah, that's a camera there. But yeah, you can go buy a bunch of stuff from them. So cheap Wi-Fi and Bluetooth chips using IoT devices. Different chipsets are available. But yeah, so undocumented backdoor, and here's a link. This is the original doc. This is the original article. There's that. And then the updated article, which I'll only read the updated article because I don't want people to get the wrong idea. There you go. All right, so exploitation of the backdoor allows hostile actors to conduct impersonation attacks and permanently infect sensitive devices such as mobile phones, computers, smart locks, medical equipment by bypassing code audit controls. So instead of attacks presented last year, didn't have working tools, didn't work with generic hardware, and used outdated or unmaintained tools largely incompatible. So TarLogic, the company that these folks wrote from, created a C-based USB Bluetooth driver that is hardware independent and cross-platform, allowing direct access to the hardware without relying on OS-specific APIs. Okay. They found hidden vendor-specific commands, so VSCs. So if you ever see a VSC, it's vendor-specific commands in the Bluetooth firmware that allow low-level control over Bluetooth functions. In total, they found 29 undocumented commands, collectively characterized as a backdoor that could be used for memory manipulation. Espressif has not publicly documented these, so they're either not meant to be accessible or were left in by mistake. They're now tracked by 2025-27-840. Oh, hey, Fix-It. What's up? How y'all doing? So we're talking about, and actually I could probably get rid of my Docker UI bit here. We're talking about the Espressif vulnerabilities that weren't really vulnerabilities this week. So some folks from TarLogic was talking at RootedCon. Hey, Fix-It, how you doing? Thank you for raid. Thank you for the raid, y'all. Shout out to Fix-It. Shout out Fix-It 42. There we go. Ding, 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 ding. Yeah, it's funny. So I saw this on Saturday night at my home, and because I do some, light vulnerability management at my place, the first thing I thought of was, oh, this is going to be awesome. And so I made the horrible mistake of logging in on Sunday to my work computer because I don't have work on anything but my work computer. And somebody had already at like 5:28 a.m. had posted up into our like vulnerability management system. Is anybody watching this? Is anybody tracking this? And I was like, turn it off, because I was like, it'll be there on Monday, right? And to your point, Fix-It, it was blown out of proportion. And I think Bleeping Computer was the first to, if it bleeds, it leads kind of thing. But they had to go back and temper expectations. Not that reputation matters at all, but so TarLogic didn't have a way of testing these vendor-specific commands, so they created one. They created a driver, C-based USB Bluetooth driver, to interact directly with memory, which is great. I could definitely see a use for that, being able to interrogate firmware on chips that you don't have to go directly through the OS that it runs on, because there's undocumented commands in everything, that every firmware device, because I don't know if it's the same way with everyone, but like Broadcom, Qualcomm, Texas Instruments, Silicon Labs, Espressif, MediaTek, all of them, they create blobs, right? TarLogic and Bleeping Computer changed. Yes, they did. They have an update here on their site that said, oops, our bad. And then you can click on, if you go to the new article, you can see the original one on archive.org. And so you, when you get hardware drivers for Espressif or TI or whatever, you get a blob, right? You get a binary, and a lot of third parties that use Espressif or TI or whatever, they just take this blob of code and they dump it into their firmware, and they go, okay, I'm going, and basically it's like, okay, this driver sits here and it interacts with the firmware, the camera, the sensor, or whatever, and the OS says, okay, and you have like endpoints on this thing that comes out here that the OS can send data to. The blob then goes magic and then interacts with the firmware. When I used OpenBSD back in the day, one of the things they liked was blobless firmware. They wanted to be able to reverse engineer their firmware. So they talked about that. It was like, so you send the blob, the driver, the value of 2, and you see on the other side 7 comes out, and you're like, well, something inside makes 2 equal 7. So something is making 5 or whatever happen, or it's 2 plus 2 plus 45 plus negative 45 plus 7 plus whatever, and then 7 comes out on the on the other side. You don't really know what the blob is doing because you're not supposed to analyze it. So these folks created a tool that allows them to interrogate the system. And I'm sure they've released it as an open source bit, and they say updated expressive published a statement in response to TarLogic's findings, stating that the undocumented commands are debug commands used for internal testing. Okay, that's about the easiest that you could have in terms of that, and that's it does allow for low-level control of the Bluetooth stack, which could allow you to do things with it, like, go out and get updates, or, ooh, what does this button do, or enable JTAG access, or, do things to it. But, and fix it, please tell me if I'm wrong here, but you almost always have to have physical access to the device. Because these things are inside the chassis of said device, you're going to have to tear it open, cheap IoT devices. You're going to have to interact with it in some way, which would require potentially soldering wires to it or whatever. You need physical access to the device. So, you're going to need to be in somebody's house. You're going to need to have it. You're not just going to be able to walk by and go, oh, you're owned, that kind of thing. Maybe not in all cases, but I would say for the majority of it, and I think if we look at the CWE rating, I think it's extremely low. Oh, it's a 6.8. It's not bad. 6.8 is not bad. It's not something where you're like, oh my God, the world is ending, because there is some effort required here. Let's see what's, nope. So 3.1, so attack vector physical, so you have to be physical. Security now did a thing of it, so he went low level on it. You need to put your own firmware on it. Yeah. I mean, once you can put your own firmware on something, you can do whatever you want, right? It's like, why would I have root on a device. Why would I bother doing anything else? I own the device now. So, attack complexity is low, privilege required high. So, between the physical and the high, that's what's dropping this. But there is, the ability to do it is fairly easy. So confidentiality, integrity is high, right? Because you're causing, issues where you can't trust the device, so the integrity goes down. Availability and none. Okay, so that would be the, you could knock it offline. Why is it saying? Oh, it looks like it changed. Availability low. Oh, so there's a little bit of difference here on how people are coming about this. So NVD says availability is none, but they're saying availability is low. Attack complexity, wow, so they differ here. So attack complexity is high for CNA and privilege required high for CNA, but for MITRE, but for NVD, they're saying high and low. So there's a bit of a difference in opinions between CNAs. That is interesting. Credits to Johannes on the Stormcast pod that caught it at once. Do you have a link to that? Fix it? Johannes? I don't know who Johannes is. Stormcast. Is that ISC stuff? Johannes Ulrich? It's probably, Stormcast pod. Yeah, Sands, okay. Yeah, Johannes Ulrich, yeah. Where's that? Yeah, expressive statement. Here you go. So, y'all can go check that one out. There it is. Yeah, Sans. Yeah. Son of a bitch. Yeah. And turn off Docker. There we go. Yeah, you can go listen to that. And yeah, I don't listen to as many of these as I should, but yeah, Johannes Ulrich is good for that. And so it's got 3 things: Patch Tuesday, iOS Mac updates, and expressive debug commands. So yeah, it's unfortunate. I don't you know. I mean, it's great that they found this. They definitely did some work. They can claim now that they have a driver for interrogating this that's platform agnostic, and you can use it for a number of different things. It's hardware independent, so they have a nice tool that they can use for hardware development or hardware checking. Yeah. All right. Goodbye, whooping you. Whoopinion. Thank you for coming, hanging out with me though. So yeah, I don't do a lot of hardware hacking. I mean, I think the last thing I ever did for hardware hacking was root my phone, which has been several years. I can't solder for shit, so it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, they have a nice blog post right up here on that. I don't know if they've updated it to. Looks like 13march was the last time it was updated. Maybe. Let me go see. Oh no, they've provided technical details. It's a hidden feature rather than a backdoor. Technical details and content of Bluetooth hacking talk was published in the blog. Okay, so they have updated it to say, oh, it's a hidden feature, not a backdoor. No, I don't need a lab. I just got rid of about 3 different computers for that. So, I mean, I do have enough space here on my desk that I could have something, but that's why I let you fix it, and I let all the other streamers who love to solder and inhale, poisonous fumes do that. That's their. Okay, that's their bag. So. And there's that. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so it's obvious they can show their methodology and how they came about finding it. Who's to say they couldn't do something with it? You can buy the pieces online, so it's not like you couldn't do something like that. Yeah, I mean, you've got expressive development boards all over the place, so you could play around with the Bluetooth or the wireless chip on there. Now that you know that this exists, I don't know if they've released the driver for this. It would seem like they would want to, but it could be the expressive lawyered up and said, hey, don't deploy your fancy USB, your C-based driver for that. But yeah, I thought there was one other thing I wanted to talk about. Where was that? There's one other. I want to say it was a breach or something. It wasn't a breach. Let me see. I was just looking at it the other day. Really? I can't. Yeah, anything government related, I can't trust anymore. So, I mean, not that I ever really trusted them, but. Ew, gross. Windows Notepad's going to get AI text summarization in Windows 11. One, you have to install a Notepad now because they've gotten rid of it. They should have presented their tool in a different way, got lost in the panic. Yeah, 100%. They could have said, hey, here's a USB, here's a C-based driver that allows you, that is platform agnostic and hardware independent. So, I mean, that's great. I mean, that makes it super flexible. Here's something you can use to interrogate, microcontrollers or whatever. I mean, that would be ideal. I mean, they probably got more clicks because they said, they found a backdoor. They found a backdoor in expressive stuff. And I would imagine now expressive is going to be removing the debug build or the debug commands in their release driver or the release firmwares. So that stuff doesn't show up. Now, I would say that because this is dropping, if you have physical access to the device, it is mostly game over. But I would say if you could wire something to the Bluetooth where you've got, I'm thinking from a trust point of view, right? The firmware that exists on the microcontroller is going to be explicitly trusted by the IoT, the larger IoT device, is my guess. If there was some way, like Fixit, you said you could put another firmware on there that would do something like maybe bypass a secure boot. If you wanted to get the key secrets off of an IoT device that connects back to do something like, let's say there's Netflix keys, or it's a resold device that somebody didn't completely clean off, so there's keys to be able to connect to somebody's Samsung device or something like that. I don't know what kind of attack vectors you could get from that, but because the microcontroller is explicitly trusted by the OS above it, it could allow you to get around certain things, like that firmware is going to be loaded when you power on the device. So, or that blob that you're getting from the firmware device is loaded when the IoT device comes up. So it would be potentially trusted, depending on what kind of controls the microcontroller has on it. You'd have to be, I don't know, but it feels like you'd have to be fairly sophisticated to make that happen. So you might be able to just get around secure boot at that point. You wouldn't have to go through all the trouble of using a microcontroller or whatever. What was that I was looking for? I was reading something else, I couldn't remember. Same thing happened to me. I moved to my MacBook and I got rid of all my Windows boxes because I had my streaming rig for the longest time, and it lasted about 18 months, and I was starting to see, even with a 3060 NVIDIA chip, that I was having limitations. So I'm hoping my MacBook will last me for a lot longer than that, but yeah, I would like it if Linux had more support, but it is what it is. What's the URL for that page? Are you talking about my Feedly stuff? Or the espressif chips or whatever? This is Feedly. I've used Feedly for probably 15 years now. Whenever Google Reader went away, I don't know. Maybe I can share that with. This is my InfoSec feed that I follow. So I have ransomware news, threat intelligence, security week. Yeah. So. This is just Feedly. So, OpenCTI in an AWS environment, MagSafe charger. I thought I had another article. That sucks. Feedly. So when Google Reader went away, in I don't know, when did Google Reader go away? Google Reader discontinued in early 2005. Okay, wow. I've been using Feedly for about 20 years now then. Oh no, 2013. 2013. Okay, so it was created in early 2005, shut down in 2013. Yeah, I was still working at Ultra Electronics at the time. Yeah, and at the time, Feedly was like, "Yeah, come over, we'll hang out with you. Just $99 for a lifetime membership." And I was like, "Wow, $99! It's a lot of money, a lot of money." And so I went ahead and pulled the trigger on that because I was like, "Oh, maybe I'll use it for a little while or whatever." And yeah, it's grown up, and they've added some threat intelligence stuff to it. I actually use it, and I actually use it for threat intelligence as well. As you can see, there's threat intel feeds and stuff for different areas. Ukraine loses signal support. That's expected. It's Medusa firmware. So yeah, I mean, I can add pretty much whatever I'd like. It also has like a IFTTT type of functionality. That you can, if you see something, then you can do this. But there's automations. There's other stuff you can add to it as well that I don't think you can get the lifetime membership thing now. It's like a subscription-based deal, so you have to pay every month. But I'm still using the lifetime membership, which they haven't turned off, or they haven't said, oh, you can continue using it with this hamstrung version or whatever. So it's really great. Feedly.com is the website. So, before everyone showed up, I was trying to understand how to use a RAG for LLM stuff, and I think I found a how-to on how to set up Milvius to be used as a RAG for all of the PDFs that I use for my RPG-related items, my role-playing game stuff. And Milvius is Dockerized. I just need to set up a Docker Compose file from GitHub and attempt to, make it happen. So I don't move. Yes. I don't know why I have 3 different Docker UIs outputs in my overlay, but I do. There we go. So I've been playing around with, Docker, trying to learn how to be a backend developer, because being a PM isn't hard enough. Trying to set up some things for like my AI related issues. So, but yeah, it's a lot of fun to learn different things and setting up networking and making sure that it isn't exposed. And I have a couple of think centers over there I'll probably use for the Docker bits once I get it stood up and running properly. But yeah, I'm really hungry. I think I'm going to go. I really wanted to go longer here, but I'm feeling a bit peckish, and I think I'm going to take off. Let's see if anybody else is going. I want to, share the good fortune that Fixit has given me by allowing people to raid. So we have Sid. Oh, Sid Heresy. I was trying to remember the person who does a lot of like physical related items, and Sid Heresy is on right now. Maker Deck. T-Pain, good guy. T-Pain. All right, let's go raid Sid, and we'll send him some love as well. I can't spell Sid Heresy right. There we go. All right, so Sid is coming up. He'll be online in a second. And I'll be back next week. Probably do some more boot.dev stuff, learning lists and slicing up lists right now. But yeah, thanks Fixit for the raid, and I hope everyone has a good rest of your day, good rest of your weekend, and take care. And we'll see you all very soon, okay? All right. All right, bye everybody.